Hi, this is Lisa and welcome to my channel. I have just come up with an issue that these ribbons that I won at the booth show do not fit on my barn. So today we're going to miniaturize them. And when they're done, they're going to fit in our barn just fine. The first thing you need to do is go find some ribbon in the colors of the rosettes you want to create. I am using 1/4 inch for the 1/9 scale, and in some I've used 1/8 inch. It depends on the scale you're making these in. Choose ribbons that work for you. These ribbons themselves are actually 2 inches, which in 1/9 scale is 1/4 inch. Now that we've got our ribbons picked out, let's get started. And I'd really appreciate it if you like and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. Once you've chosen your ribbons for the center piece, what we're going to do is take a photo and try to get the best color possible in your photo. For this project, I'm using paint.net, which is free software. Of course, you can use any photo software. I will put the information for paint.net below. So what I've done is taken this photo and what I'm going to do is pick a color. So if I use the paint picking tool, I can actually pick a color. And that gives me the color of the ribbon that I want to use. Next, you're going to create a new picture. You want it 200 pixels by at whatever length you want. So if you are using a 2-inch ribbon by a 12-inch ribbon, you would use 200 by 1200, and you would create that. Then you would use your paint filling with that color to fill the entire background there. Then create a second layer, and I'm not going to go into any details on how to do this. And using typesetting, you would create all the words on a see-through background, and that will give you your ribbon. Then we're going to copy this, and because there's 2 different layers, in paint.net you can just select all and then can go Control-Shift-C, and that'll copy both layers. I then pasted that into Word or whatever program you use, and then I'm going to take that and shrink it. And what I want to shrink that down to is 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to do more than one for each one. I would recommend test printing them first. Now these are all of mine set up. I have 2 for each one I want to do in case I mess one up. And first test print them, and then print them as per the instructions. And I will put a link of the product I've used. It's True Heat Transfer Paper for dark colors. And this is to transfer on t-shirts and stuff like that. So once you've done a test print those in high quality on the transfer paper. For the button on the top of the rosette, you can create your own circles. You can use a photograph of the ones you already have. You can use pictures from online. Whatever you do, when you have that, you can copy what you have here, then take it over to your Word program again. Then you're going to paste it in your Word program or whatever you're using. And instead of trying to shrink it down, again, we're going to make this 2 inches. They have a size and position here, and you can just set it to 1/4 inch. Copy that and make some multiples of them. As I'm doing 2 of those, I want 4, just in case I mess it up. Once I have that, I'm going to print that out in high quality on photo paper. For a little fun, I also took photos of the models that won, and then just grabbed a frame online and put that on top in layers, and copied that over to my Word before I printed this on glossy photo paper. Now I'm just going to print all that out and let everything dry. As you can see, a lot of the stuff I've printed on this kind of paper has faded. So before I do anything else, I am going to spray this with a UV protectant. Once these are dry, I'm going to cut them out using a ruler and a knife. And I want to go right up to this line, these ways, but I'm going to extend this way. That'll make it easier for me to work with. I also cut off this piece. That way I can have it for another future piece of work. You only need to press lightly when you're cutting these, and I'm trying to not get any extra white on either side of the line. Now I have them all cut out. Now I need an iron. You're also going to need a small piece of parchment paper. The instructions say this needs to go on for 5 minutes, but I'm not going to do it all at once. So what I'm going to do first is peel off the backing off this little piece of paper. And that's why we have the extra at the top and bottom. Peeling that off, I'm going to carefully place it on my ribbon, and I want to make sure the area I'm working is fairly flat. You don't want too much of a spongy location. Once I have it centered, I'm just going to carefully place a piece of paper over that and put my iron on there for about, I don't know, 30 seconds until it's set. And then I'm going to put a little bit more afterwards when I get them all ready. Make sure you move your iron around because there's holes in the bottom of it, and you want to make sure you get it nice and even. And your iron should be at the highest heat. As I'm setting another one, I'm also working on the one before that just to get it more heat. You can see the difference. This one just has a little bit of application on. This has more, and you can see the colors coming through. You want it to be well applied. You should be seeing those colors coming through. Once I have them all set, I am just going to iron these for maybe another 3 minutes. Now they're all done, just double check, make sure they're not going to peel easily. Once they're cooled down, you might want to spray them with the same UV protectant, just a little copy, because we don't care if they blow in the wind, but we do care that they last. One last step I'm going to take is now that this UV coating has dried, I am going to gloss these because I want to, and I'm going to gloss the pictures to make it look like there's glass. Not the frame, just the photographs. And I'm using this. If you look at it sideways, you can see where you've glossed. Next, we're going to make the stuff that goes around the edges on the actual rosette. Now, with these ribbons, these are 2-inch ribbons, which is exactly a 1/4 inch ribbon in our 1/9 scale. To actually make it exactly the same as this, you really need more of a ribbon that comes like this. Now that is not what I'm going to use for this project. These, I'm going to make multiple little bends with a 1/4 inch ribbon, or for some of them, like you see in my test sample here, you can use the smaller 1/8 ribbon. So this was done with the 1/4 inch and that with the 1/8. For gluing ribbon, I'd recommend one of these glues, either a tacky glue, which takes longer to dry, or fabric tack, which is faster to dry. Either way, you have to let them dry properly before you can go on to the next step. Take your color you want to use, cut a small piece, fold it in half, put a little glue on it, not right to the end, but almost to the end, and then wedge it under something like a metal ruler and let that dry, and just do a bunch of them. As we are only going to use the very end of these, and the rest will be trimmed off, you want to make sure that the glue goes almost to the end and there's a little bit of a hole or a opening there, because that gives it that fluffy look. Here I have the pieces prepared, and I'm going to let them dry for a while. So these little ones I'm going to put around here. These are going to go here, and these are going to go around the outside. And in my sample here, I used 7 or 8 around the outside. I think it was 7 on this one. So it depends on the size you're making, but once you've got them there, let them dry. Note, many ribbons have a right side, a shiny side, and a dull side. Make sure you leave the shiny side out. For the backing of the rosette, where you're going to use a card, and I have a manila file folder here. Then we're going to pick our size. For mine, for the scale, I measured mine, and it's going to be about 17 millimeters. So I'm going to draw a 17 millimeter circle, and then put a smaller one inside just to give me reference of where to keep it pretty balanced inside. Not necessary, just helpful. Then I'm going to cut out my circle. And you can also buy hole punches in the scrapbook section of a craft store for stuff like this. There are various ways to do this, and I'm going to show you 1 or 2 ways, but get creative. The main thing about doing this is take your time. The more you rush, the less it's going to turn out well. So what you want to do is take your little pieces that have been folded, and you want to cut them down really short, so that when they come on here, they're going to stick just over the edge and not all the way into the middle. And you want to cut enough to go all the way around, approximately 8. And this is where you'll know if you've glued it far enough. So if you can see that, there's enough glue right here to hold it, yet there's still a little bit of poof right at the end. So the glue really needs to come almost to the end. And you can see this one opened up, so that's a fail. That's why I always make more than I need. Now we're going to take a little bit of glue, put it on the back of one of them, and glue that so that it just hits the edge. Now with the second one, you can overlap it a lot or just a little. I like the edges to just touch, and I want to keep it where the line would come through the center of here instead of getting on an angle. So here I have the edges just touching, and if I drew a straight line, it would go through the center there. And I'm going to work all the way around that circle. Using tweezers will help you get it where the others aren't going to move around each time you place it. Again, take your time. Get it in place. Push it down. Make sure none of the others have moved. There we go. And on to the next one. I'm going to make sure they're all in place. There is my first one, and I'm going to leave that alone. If you're using the same glue, the tacky glue, leave it alone for about an hour. If you do want to use something like this, and I didn't find it very useful, just make sure you cut off all but the very edge of this ribbon, so you don't have to deal with all of this part of it. To make better use of this ribbon, I made a larger circle. This is 22 millimeters. Then I am going to glue this around the edge. This is going to make it quite a large one because of the type of ribbon it is. So in this case, I'm actually going to apply the glue right to the board. And then very carefully place that around. When I get to the end, I'm going to leave a little bit to overlap, cut it, and apply some glue underneath the ribbon, and glue that one in place so that the overlap goes all the way around. You see it's quite a bit bigger than the other one. Here are the three of the rosettes I want to copy, and you can see it here. We have three very similar layers. In this one we have two similar layers, and in this one we have one all round layer, then we have the four pieces, and then a thinner layer up here. Sometimes you get points. You determine what kind of style you want for your rosette. Before you start the second round, if your second round is the last round, you may want to cut out your little centerpiece. If you have a hole punch that size, that's great. Otherwise, just use small scissors. So for this yellow one, I want to apply an identical second round, leaving just enough room for this piece to go in the middle. So I'm going to leave a gap between here. I'm going to cut these fairly short, probably shorter than that, and glue them around exactly the same as the first one. Now, if your second round really should be glued almost to the end, otherwise it will come apart. So there is my second layer, and I want to push it down to make sure it glues properly and that everything is in place. And again, let that dry fully. I want to make sure that's going to fit in the center the way I want it to. So I may want those a little closer, then let it dry. For this one, I'm going to apply some glue in the center here. And I'm going to apply another the same way, leaving quite a bit of overlap. Now there are different types of rosettes here with their different layers on, and I'm waiting for those to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to take these strips and I want to cut them at the bottom. These ones I pre-prepared, and this section right here is going to be used to glue, but I don't want too much there. And I'm going to cut the ones I need. Now for this one, I didn't have one specially done, but I'm going to put a big long blue one in the middle there. Now I'm going to get the side color pieces that I want and cut them longer than I think they need to be. So for this one, it's going to have two lighter purple ones next to it. Now depending on your design, you can choose to glue these together now, so adding a little glue here, or you can just glue them on the back later. I just find this allows me more control over what they look like, and it allows me to move forward faster and having to wait another hour for the next step. So what I want to do is see what it's going to look like and where it's going to sit when it's done. So I'm going to be cutting these here and here. That's the look I want. It's even on both sides. I like the way it looks right now. And I'm just going to let that dry so that when I'm ready for it, it'll be ready. And while it's drying, I'm also going to take a little fray check and put it along there at the bottom, plus where I think I'm going to be cutting this, and let that dry as well. Here are my hanging parts getting ready and drying. Now for the third layer. In some cases, that just means gluing on your little pre-made piece of the rosette. For one like this, I just want to center it and then press it down. Extra glue. And there we go for that one. Next, I took this piece of ribbon and I trimmed it. In this case, I'm going to go straight across. In others, I may do a V. I trimmed them off where I had put the fray check and then just glued it onto the back, making sure my little centerpiece was right side up. For the third layer of this one, I want another lighter orange. So what I'm going to do is actually take my little mini piece and I'm going to glue these little 1/8 folds around this. That's going to allow me to get a more centraled, even piece around this center part. For something like this, tweezers really help. So I put a little bit of glue on there, pick up the edge, and just touch that to it. And you can see how that's coming along. There's the back of that piece. You want to be careful. If you get glue on the top, you could remove the print. I'm going to let that dry a little bit before I apply the rest. You could also just apply them on here and put that on top. For this next one, I took a piece of 1/8 inch ribbon and I've put fray check on it. And I'm going to put a point on the end, then cut that short. And what I want to do is glue those on so that the point goes up like that. So I have 5 of the gold, so I need 5 little points. And just tap that down. Make sure everything's in place and let that dry. This one's going to have another round like the second one, more orange. So I've cut these as short as possible and I'm going to glue those in. So I've got them in there again, press it down gently. This one's going to be a nice big floofy one. I would not go any more than that deep. Make sure to give it a good press down. With this one, you can take a piece of the larger ribbon or a shorter ribbon. Because it's such a big piece, I'm using the larger ribbon. And I'm folding it in on itself. I'll show you with a bigger piece. Taking it here, around and on top of itself to form a point like that. So then you get points like that, and I'm going to put those around the inside as the next level. This little centerpiece is now dry. There's the back side of it. I'm just going to put glue on that and center it. Again, with the butt of a pencil, give it a little push down. And I just added a little more glitter to the black points here. Again, this is just a little bit of extra fun. The whole point is to be creative. And there's that one. This last rosette, I made a larger centerpiece for in here. Now we have to do the back of the rosettes. Now you can just cut out a similar circle of the same size as the back. Or what I did is I took a photo of the actual ribbon of rosette and I printed that out on photo paper and I made sure the size was the correct size. Now there's various things you could do to the back, like you could put a thumbtack on facing out to use as a pin that you could press into a barn wall. Or you could probably put a loop and a hook in, but what I'm gonna do is take some fine gauge wire. This is 26 gauge wire. What I'm gonna do is take a piece of wire and bend it in half, and then bend it again to make a hook. Now this size all depends on what you're using, but it's gonna be about there, and then I'm gonna cut off this extra. For this step, I'm back using my regular glue. What I'm gonna do is apply glue to the back. Spread the glue all over the place, right around the whole piece. Take your hook, facing up, and put it and the back piece on. Now the hook should not show from the right side. Press it down and let it dry. If you want to do a neck rosette, you can take a ribbon, a larger ribbon, and wrap it around the model's neck to get the right size. You then cut it into the point there, apply a little fray check along the edge. Now you have the option of gluing your rosette onto the bottom here, or a better one is to take a little jump ring and a piece of 1/8 inch ribbon, then put the piece of ribbon through the jump ring, glue that closed. Once your piece with the ring is dry, check it there. You want this piece facing down. So this will hang this way so that when your rosette is there, it will cover this. Just glue that on like that and let it dry. Now that you have a neck ribbon with a ring on it, you can hang any rosette on that neck ribbon that you want. So there's all the rosettes ready to go and the images of the models, and I'm gonna go put all that on the tack room wall. Well, there we go. Fred's set up all the ribbons and now I have a new rosette wall. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks for joining me on my journey. Please check out the next video and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.